going to share that screen. Okay, here it is right here. Okay, and then this is from the start. There I am in my fund. Now, what this is a list of the topics. There was a question last week to share the topics that I was going to be covering so that everyone would know whether they were, should stay tuned in and stay interested. So these are based on the questions that I got. And so I put the PowerPoint in the order of the questions, and I'm just going to address all of them. There were some questions about bonsai, shade plants. Everyone wants to know what are the best shade plants, what's the best shrub in a shady area, so I'm going to answer those. Plants for wet areas, how to get rid of moss, orchid care, lawn care, weed control. Boy, that's a big one. How to get rid of those weeds that hang on over the winter. Long blooming annuals. People really want to know what are the long blooming annuals. What are the longest ones that we have, to keep color all summer long. Vegetables. Whoa, that's a hot one. There are questions about raised beds, how to make them, how to restore them. Organic, what's the benefit of organic? How to fertilize organically or earth-friendly natural. Warm season versus cool season vegetables. Guess what? Guess what, everybody? The tomatoes rolled in today. Peppers, cucumbers, and they'll be ready out on the shelves for this weekend. So isn't that a blessing? And the next one is how to plant a container to get the best show. What's too tight, what's not tight enough in the planting. Age of seeds. How viable are the seeds I found that were labeled from 2012? Sod versus seed for the best lawn. Hydrangea care. Man, tons of questions about hydrangeas. Fertilizing, pruning, flowering, how to get them to flower if they're being stubborn. And I have pruning on there twice. Then correct watering for newly planted trees and shrubs. That was a question I got 4 days ago, and I was so worried about it that I directly answered this person, but I'm going to keep it in because it's a good question. And physical damage to lawns now. What's causing that and why? Keeping pests away. Our number one pest, rabbits. Number one, and number two, probably squirrels and chipmunks. Number three, deer, depending on where you live. And then lots of questions about butterfly gardens. And then if you plant for butterflies, you're going to get the extra benefit of hummingbirds, pollinators also. And so now let me check here to see. I'm gonna bring this screen down one more time so that I can see what's going on. Here we go. Oh, that's not going to do it. And oh, here we go. And it looks like we've got 44 people. Welcome, welcome, welcome. And then I also saw, I thought I saw a question. I'm going to take this off of the screen sharing real quick so I can look at the questions or the chats. And okay, we're going to stop sharing real quick. All right. Oh, here we go. All right, I've got some questions here, but I'm just going to look at them. And why do I need to wear a mask? Good question. Because we have people that come in and out of this office, and that is our rule. That is our rule. We all have to wear masks here, no matter what. So I'm sorry about that. Okay, a new link. Okay, is this new link the same one for next 3 weeks? Ooh, that's a good question. No, it's not going to be the same one for all 3 weeks. A new email will go out with the link for that week. So as a confirmation, I apologize for the glitch today. I apologize. Okay, okay. All right, and I'll get to all these. I've got flower boxes, and so I'm gonna go ahead and get back with the PowerPoint and start answering the questions. I'll check every once in a while about the questions. You have like flower boxes. I'm going to address that. So I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint, bring that up, and I'll just shift in and out of it throughout the session. Okay. And thank you for putting things up on the chat here, and I'll check those as well. Okay. So here we go. This is it right here. Okay. So the first question was from Lisa Frederick. And, you know, she said, I have a bonsai that I spent a lot of money on. She did research on it, and, you know, it was following step by step by step, and says no matter what she did, it seemed to get sicker and sicker and sicker. Now, unfortunately, since I don't know what type of plant it was, you know, that makes it a little difficult. I have to confess, I don't have luck with bonsais at all. And bonsais are made for people that want to baby plants, and they really need to be babied. And depending on the plant, if it's an evergreen, you water it a little bit every other day. And that because the roots are so, you know, pruned, they can't rely on a big root system. So it has to be, you know, watered lightly every other day. If you water every day, then what that does is it forces the oxygen out of the root zone, and that can cause as much damage as not having enough water. So that's the main thing. And if it was an evergreen that needed to be exposed to cold, that's another problem that can happen. Okay, the next one, I have a super shady wet garden, so any tips would be great. All right, lots of people want to know about, you know, super shady wet. And when you're dealing with a wet garden, you have to understand whether it's, you know, constantly wet and constantly moist soil, or if it's seasonally wet, seasonally moist. And we see that a lot in this area where we get standing water during the springtime, and then we can also see at the end of the summer. Some of the best plants that are great for those conditions are anything in the dogwood family, any of the Fothergilla or witch hazel family. They love that, and they love the shade, and it can tolerate wet soils. Clethra ulnifolia, that's called summer sweet shrub. It is a wonderful shrub for those conditions. And they have the 7-foot type, but then they also have the shorter, like the 3 or 4 foot types. And just incredible for those. What I love about the summer sweet is you get flowers late in the summer. That's why it's called summer sweet shrub. But then it also has beautiful lemon yellow fall color. So in those shady spots, it brightens it up. It's just one of the best things that you can, you know, that you can have. Okay, the next one, Jenny had questions about a new raised bed for a vegetable garden, and wanted to know about using an organic soil mixture of topsoil, compost, and like a biofungicide, mycorrhizae. If you use Biotone, which is a product from Espoma, it has the mycorrhizae, fungi, plus the beneficial bacteria, plus a great starter fertilizer component. So you would add that as you're making the raised bed. Do not use earthworm castings. Do not use earthworm castings. They used to be a wonderful thing to add and very nutritious, but ever since the Asian jumping worm problem, we can't get sources that will confirm that they don't have any Asian jumping worm castings, and the castings actually have the cocoons for the new ones to hatch. So we won't sell earthworm castings at Chalet. We usually don't have products that have earthworm castings in them. So don't do that. You do need to fertilize throughout the growing season. And my favorite are the Dr. Earth fertilizers. It's the tomato, vegetable, and herb. What's great about it, it's made from the fish waste industry. No shellfish, just good, fish bones. And so the calcium levels are very, very high. So whenever you have high calcium, that reduces the problem and reduces the risk of having blossom end rot on tomatoes and peppers and zucchini. So whenever you have that naturally occurring calcium, that really helps. And then planting tomatoes, peppers, beans, and lettuces. You have to understand the frost-free date, which is tomorrow, May 15th. And that's the average date of the last frost of the season. Now we had a good lesson. Who would ever think that it would have been a hard freeze on Mother's Day, but it was this year. So, we look at that average. That means that the freezes could stop before the 15th of May, or they could happen after the 15th of May, because that's an average date. But what that is, it's a guideline. You want to plant cool season crops like spinach, peas, lettuces, kales. They can be planted as early as April 7th, and then grow up until this point. You could have been harvesting those. And then you never, ever want to plant warm season plants like tomatoes, peppers, squashes, cucumbers, corn. Never plant those before the frost-free date. And to be safe, I'm going to hold off. I'm going to buy my tomatoes this weekend and my peppers this weekend, so I get a good selection. But I'm not going to plant them until until the week after, or maybe even Memorial Day, just to be safe. Because if the weather changes quickly, then I can move them inside or in the garage, and just in case we get another cold snap and another frost. So that's kind of the basic on that. Now, oh, this is a great question. I'm going to lower out of this screen again real quick and see about, and I'm going to have to do this to get out of the shared screen. Uh-oh, what am I done here? Oh, hold on. I wanted to just check to make sure how many people we had. Let me just do this escape. Oh, okay, hold on. We're back here. Okay, oh, there I'm back again. And I'm checking to see, we have 39 people. Welcome. All right, and then more Q&A in the chat. Those were the original ones. Thanks, everybody. All right, so everyone's doing okay? All right, I'm gonna put the screen right back up again and share the screen. Here we go. Okay. All right, and from this current screen. Okay, here we go. This is a great question, and I had several of these. I have a lot of moss growing in low spots in my lawn. This is from Karen Lustig, and a rain garden is not an option, and that's the case for a lot of us. How do I get rid of the moss? Okay, to get rid of the moss, there's a product called Moss Max, and Moss Max, and it's from the Bonide Company, and we have it in a spray, a liquid spray that you spray, and it's made from the essential fatty acids of potassium salts, and you spray that, and it changes the pH, and the fatty acids break down the mosses, so it kills them, and then they don't come back. There's also a granular. The granular product is made. It has iron in it. So it lasts a little longer, and you sprinkle it over the area, but it can stain concrete because of the iron. So be forewarned of that. You know, if you can use the granule, I like that, but be prepared, you know, to not let it get on your concrete. Oh, excuse me, I'm going to sneeze. Pardon me. Okay, now what grass seed mix do I suggest for a sunny area? Well, once you spray and get the moss to die, you would just use a sunny grass seed mixture like the Chalet Sun Mix, or you could use Sun and Shade and have it work fine. Okay, there's going to be another question on moss, I think, a little bit later. Okay, now Olga Meyer has problems with orchids, and with the orchids are in the most common orchid that people have these days are the moth orchids, M-O-T-H, moth orchids, or they also are known, they're Phalaenopsis orchids. And they're the best for our homes because their native environment averages 72 degrees, which that's our room temperature in our homes. And then they also have real waxy leaves, so they're not susceptible to our moisture fluctuations in our homes. They need to be watered once a week, and only once a week, so that the water can drain through the bark mix. They do need to be repotted once every year or two, depending on how they're growing. They need to have a lot of light. And you know, I even have all of mine growing in a south window that gets pretty direct sun on it for about 6 hours a day. And then so So, if the leaves start turning pale, paler green or more of a yellow color, if you're having a real sunny spot, move it away from the window about 6 to 12 inches. Anytime you move a plant away from the sunny source by 6 to 12 inches, every 6 inches, it reduces the intensity of the light by half. So always think of that. And now, when I don't know what problems with the orchids are, but usually that will take care of it. Now, when you repot every year, this is the only plant you do this with. You remove all of the old bark, knock it all off, so you have bare roots, and then you put fresh bark in the bottom of the pot, hold the plant over so that the roots are hanging down, and fill the bark in around them, and then water it well, and then water it once a week. That's kind of those are the cliff notes for orchid care. Okay, the next one. All right. Oh, this is a great question from Tamara. What can I do about a patchy lawn? Many people come in this time of year to say, my lawn's real patchy. I've got holes in it where it's not growing. My first question is always, when was the last time you fertilized? If you haven't fertilized for the spring, get a spring fertilizer down. And that can be a fertilizer with a pre-emergent herbicide in it, like a crabgrass preventer. One of my favorites is the Scott's product. It's called Scott's Step 1 for seeding, and it's in a light blue bag, and it has the active ingredient in it is mesotrione, and it actually is one of the most effective pre-emergent weed controls. It doesn't let any seeds germinate except for the grass seed. So I always tell people, put the fertilizer down first, because all of those little grass plants, those little baby grass plants that are just waking up in the spring, they have the capacity, once they get the fertilizer, of growing 6 or 3 inches in each direction. So if you only had 6-inch holes, in your lawn or patches, then when those plants will all spread out. It looks like something weird happened with. Oh, there I am. Okay, there I am. Okay, sorry about that. I'm still back here. So get your fertilizer down, and then I tell people wait 1 week to 2 weeks to see, and then decide how much grass seed you need to put down, because oftentimes that grass thickens up almost before your eyes. So get that fertilizer down, and then I've got another question later about how to take care of the weeds. So we'll just go ahead and I'll follow that. Now, Katie White had 1, 2, 3, 4 questions. So I let her get by with it. It's Kate White. Okay, and can we grow wisteria in our hardiness zone? And yes, you can. We have a variety and a cultivar it's called Wisteria kentuckiensis. It's called Kentucky wisteria. It's hardy here. There's also a cultivar called Amethyst Falls that is hardy here, and it's one of the Orientalis types. And I'm so sorry. I meant to. Oh, hold on. I can do this. I meant to look up and get my poison control book out. My box, my office is right here, and I've got my poison control book. Oh no, I don't. To see if wisteria is toxic. Kate, I apologize. I'm not going to log the program down later. I'll email you back about the toxicity of wisteria. I don't think it's a problem, but whenever anyone asks about toxicity, I always check my my reference book on that. Okay, so now solar versus plug-in fountains, which are best? For many years, we tried to find good solar fountains, and we never were satisfied with the quality of them. However, they're getting better and better and better. So I know our buyers have found some that have been really fun and really reliable. So, I think the question is, the way you decide is how nice or how easy is an electrical hookup for your fountain. And the problem with the solar ones is if we have some dark days and that solar panel doesn't get charged, then your fountain doesn't run. So, you know, so for many years, we always tell people stick with the, you know, the electrical ones. Okay, next question. Okay, looking for good perennials to put in between the yews and flowers in the front yard that will retain some green year round, but will stand out from the yews. My favorite are hellebores. That's the Lenten rose. Hellebores have beautiful, beautiful foliage. It's evergreen and it stays there. And then you get these gorgeous flowers early in like the end of February, March. And then when they finish, those the bracts dry and you have interest all through the season. So that would be my number one is that. The other ones I really like are any of the lamium. The lamium has beautiful foliage and it stays semi-evergreen, you know, as well. But okay, now the next one, how best to keep grass from growing up through pea gravel, but allowing other plants to do so. I have the magic product, and I think I have one here. Do I have it here? Oh, drat. I took it down for a segment with Tracy Butler yesterday, and I didn't bring it back upstairs. Okay, but what you use is a product called Grass Be Gone. It also was, when it originally came out, it was called Over the Top, which meant you could spray it over the top of any other plant that wasn't a grass plant, and it would kill the grasses that were coming up as weeds. That would work in the pea gravel. Spray the grass with Grass Be Gone. And I love the name, the active ingredient name of it. It's called Fluazafop. It's the goofiest name. But anyway, that would work. And it's not going to kill any of the other plants you have growing up through your, through your pea gravel. And again, that's called Grass Be Gone. Grass Be Gone. Okay, and okay. Now this is Sue Rosenbacher. And what kind of vegetable planting in raised beds and earth box. Earth boxes are fun, and they're like modified. Raised beds. And what I like to do is I love to use and I love to enhance. If you're recharging like an earth box or or a raised beds, I like to use the Dr. Earth. It's called Vegetable Planting Mix, and it has all the organic matter that you need. It also has a lot of the fish waste industry organics in it, and it's easy to use. It comes in a 1.5 cubic foot bag. If you're going to enhance a raised bed 2 inches deep, you would one bag would cover 10 square feet. That would be a planting bed that is 5 by 2, or if you have one that's 6 by 8, 1.5 bags would do the trick, for that. So I think, and then when you plant, you just use the square foot gardening concept, where you're going to plant plants every 1 to 2 feet and then harvest them quickly, interplant. So, like when you're planting your lettuces and your radishes, you're going to pull those out and then plant something else adjacent to it and just keep your crops going all the way along. I'm going to pause and look at the, I'm going to stop sharing again and look at the, okay, we have 50 people. Hi, everybody. And, I had someone that said, this is Sue Rosenbacher, about the orchids. You would like your vandas to rebloom. And I agree with you on the hover. Oh, thank you. But I'll get back to you on the vandas. Okay, so that'll be a private answer. Okay, so let's go back and keep going here I'm going to share that screen again. Here we go. Oh no, here it is. All right, and from the current slide. Okay, why is it not working? Oh, here we go. All right, let me make sure I didn't skip a slide. We're backing up again. Oh, there's Sue, okay. And now here, this is Mick Austin, and you want to know what types of annuals will last the season, and you want something that's going to give you the most color. Any of the warm season annuals are going to last all through the whole growing season. And my favorites, even though it's a basic, I love a good classic petunia. because they'll cascade over. They just bloom and bloom and bloom and bloom. And then they're the cousins. Their cousins are called million bells or calibrachoa. And oh my gosh, when you come here to the nursery, you will see that we have all of the annuals categorized by color. So there's the white bench, and then the pink bench, and then the blue bench, and the red bench, and the yellow bench, and an orange bench. And so you go to your favorites. I have to tell you, the calibrachoas have somebody, they have a color on every bench. And they're called million bells because they're miniature little petunias. They look like little they're cousins of petunias. They just bloom and bloom and bloom and bloom. So those are great for the filler and the cascade in the pots in your gardens. And then for anything with height, I love angelonia. The angelonias come in whites, pinks, and also like the blues and purples. And they look so delicate, but they're toughies. They can sit in full sun. They can get a little dry and bounce back even if they get too dry. But the angelonias, other one that I just can't resist are any of the salvias or the sages. So the annual salvias are phenomenal. And hummingbirds and bees and butterflies love them. Then there's lantana. The lantana, it usually they have solid clusters of flowers, so like solid yellow, solid white. But the one that's the classic one is, and they have orange and pink flowers on the same flower head. And it's like a, oh my gosh, it's a panicle. And butterflies love it. And they love hot and humid, and they just keep blooming and blooming and blooming. It's a plant that they use as a shrub down in the southern states, and that's how tough it is. So it gets real woody at the end of the season, and then just gives you height and also cascade in the pods. So then again, for full sun, did we say full sun? Oh, no, Mike, you're asking for color everywhere. All right, so I was giving you the sunny ones just now, but if you want great color for the shade, oh, guess what, everybody? Impatiens are back. They have disease-resistant impatiens. It's the beacon types, and it's BEACON. We've got them, so you can use impatiens again for the color in the shade. Other wonderful things in the shades that's going to give you color is look at plants with colored foliage. So the New Guinea impatiens are great. They have larger flowers. They're larger plants, but they also have that beautiful colored foliage. Colored foliage, also the coleus, any of the coleus. Now they changed the name of them, and I'm just blanking on what the new Latin name is. It doesn't matter. They're still coleus. And they're beautiful, and we have them that will stay small, and we have them that will get really large, really large. So I think, Mick, I've given you a great selection. But any of the annuals are great because they just keep blooming and blooming and blooming and blooming. They bloom their heads off until they freeze to death. Fertilized and well watered, and you'll have a great show. You'll have a great show. Okay, the next one. Okay, Cathy Werner. Oh, this is kind of I won't say sad, but okay. In September 2017, Shelley designed an area in the front of my house with different shrubs and plants. And some of the areas look overgrown, and you can prune with shrubs. You want to do a basic maintenance pruning, and that's every 3 years. You want to cut the height of the shrub down by 1/3. So let's just do easy math. If you have shrubs that have gotten to be 9 feet tall, you would cut 3 feet off of each branch, off of each of the long stems. And then you also want to prune out 1/3 of the thickest stems. We call those canes. And so anything larger than your thumb, than an inch, you want to prune it down as far and close to the ground as you can. What that will do is that will encourage new wood, and new wood actually produces better flowers. So you're managing your crop when you do that. So you'll do that once every 3 years. Now, if you have a real overgrown shrub, you can do it 3 years in a row. And you take it, as long as you don't take more than 1/3 off, then it won't put the plant into shock, and then it will grow back, and you'll have a really nice, beautiful shrub that has foliage at the base. And then you had a question about the golden hoconi grass is a light yellow. Now, if it's a golden hoconi, it's supposed to be yellow. Okay, so I hate to kind of be obvious about that. The other thing that could be a problem is we've had such a cool spring, and that frosting, that frost that we had on Mother's Day, that can cause things to turn yellow. So I would wait till we warm up, and then I would give the hoconi grass some, a good fertilizer. Any of the fertilizers that you use on any of your flowering plants, or even hollytone would be great. Give it some fertilizer and see if it colors back up. But if it is golden hoconi, be careful. That could be the color it's supposed to be. Okay, let's move on. Okay, Ileana. Oh, this is a really good question. I have seeds that are a few years old, and a couple of packets that are found to have an expiration date of 2012 and 2013. That might be a little far away from, this is 2020. So you're looking at 8 years, 7 or 8 years old. What I would do before I would rely on those seeds is you just do a germination test. Sounds real official, doesn't it? Get a paper towel and moisten it, and then put 10 of those seeds out of any of those packets on it. Fold it up, and then put it in a baggie, and leave it someplace warm and then look at the label on the plants to see what the germination rate is, or time is. So like radishes and things like that would germinate in 5 days, but carrots take 21 days. So look to see, and then mark the date that you put it in the bag, and then check in those days. If it said that it took 10 days to germinate, write 10 days down and check it. And then you unfold that wet paper towel and count how many seeds have germinated. So if 6 out of the 10 germinated, you have a 60% germination rate. So what that means is you just have to plant that many more seeds if you want to count on that for your crops. So I'm a little worried about the 2012 and 2013. But for all the seeds, if you have one from last year or the year before, again, to be safe, do that germination test so you know how many you're going to get when you plant your seeds. And what that just means is instead of planting 2 seeds in the hole, the starter hole, you want to plant 3 or 4 to make sure you get at least 1 plant. So that's kind of the germination in a quick nutshell. Okay, so now Jennifer Odulio, is sod or grass seed better for hard to grow areas? Okay, here's the rule of thumb when you're talking about a lawn or turf, turf. If you can start from seed, you're going to get a much healthier lawn. And because the seeds will germinate more securely and into the existing soil. And it's going to be a much healthier lawn starting from seed. You have to keep it consistently, evenly moist from the time you put the seed down until the time they germinate, start growing, and then also get their roots established. That can take, for bluegrasses, 4 weeks, a solid 4 weeks. It takes, they germinate in 14 to 21 days. The perennial ryegrasses and all the fescues germinate in 7 to 10 days. So when it's cooler like it's been, it takes 10 days to get germinated, plus another week and a half to get their roots established. So now, if you have a sunny area, then it's a pretty even match of grass seed and sod. You're going to get a quick lawn quickly. If it's shady, you're much better off with seed, because there is no such thing as shade tolerant sod. Sod is grown in full sun. You can put it in a shady area and get an instant lawn, but it's going to eventually thin out. It'll thin out. So if you start with sod, you're going to have to overseed with shade tolerant grass seed to have a really good healthy lawn. So I think I kind of put that, I put that up, right in a nutshell. When you're talking about rocky soil with sediment in it, don't worry about that. Here in our area, if you have rockier things in this in the soil, it helps for better drainage. So I don't worry about that at all. But But again, you do need to have nutrients. So a good lawn fertilizer. My favorite is the Dr. Earth. That's my vegetable. My favorite for the lawn is the Espoma. They call it the red bag lawn fertilizer. It's earth-friendly, natural. It has a little extra nitrogen, so you get a quicker green up. So those are my favorites. Okay, here we go. This is Jeannie Chiang. Transplanting flowers from the store into a planter. Do I pack it tightly or loosely? Okay, that's a great question. And can annuals be close together to create more color together? Yes. Okay. Now, when you have containers, we do a spring container, we do a summer container, and then we do a fall container. They're about 8 weeks long. And so if you would start from the little plugs and space them what they say, plant this plant every 12 inches in rows that are 2 feet apart from each other. It would take 4 to 6 weeks of the 8 weeks for them to even get any size. So go with the 4-inch pots, and then in a container, we say plant them right next to each other. So root ball to root ball. I also say shoulder to shoulder, and then you get a much better look, and you enjoy your containers much more quickly. And so the rule of thumb, when you're looking at a container, is you take the diameter, there's the diameter of the pot, divide it by 2, and that's the number of 4-inch containers that will fit in that pot. So a 14-inch open diameter, you can fit 7 4-inch plants in there and get a gorgeous look. Always get a cascader, always get some filler, and always get some that have vertical. So it really enhances the plant material, so you get a much better display of color. Okay, and then the annuals can be close together. That all kind of fit together. Okay, now I'm going to back up a little bit. You don't want to jackhammer the soil. And when you're planting a container, I always like to teach people this trick. Most of the 4-inch pots are about 3 to 4 inches in depth. And so I fill the pots up to 4 inches from the top edge of the pot. Take the annuals out of their plastic pots and sit them on top of that level. And again, shoulder to shoulder. So I have the root balls touching the root balls. And then I fill in around those little nooks and crannies with the potting mix. You just want to gently firm down so that you don't have any air pockets in the soil underneath the plants and then around the edges. And you're just going to firm it down. You don't have to pack it real tight, but you just want to make sure that the level of the soil across the whole top matches the level of the root balls. Because remember, plants' roots grow down and out. They never grow up. So you don't have to put any potting mix on top of the root balls, just around the edges and underneath. Okay, so now how to grow broccoli, lettuce, and cilantro other than just a few stalks from the store, from a starter small plant. It seems like you're wasting money. I don't mind buying a broccoli. We call them like a small plant, a starter plant. The secret, and then you just plant them every 8 inches in a row, and then the trick with broccoli is once you do the first harvest with the first flower head, that's a flower head, that's what broccoli is, then it branches out. And so, so you cut the first and then let it branch out, and you just keep harvesting through the rest of the summer. Now lettuces are so easy to start from seeds, but like right now, we've been so cold that to start from seeds, sometimes you don't want to wait, and so splurge and buy a couple of those small packs of the lettuces. You can get those in the ground, fertilize it again with the Dr. Earth tomato, vegetable, and herb, and it lasts 60 days. You put a tablespoon underneath each of those little packs, the plants, and then take 1 cup, and that's going to go every 10 square feet. So you take a cup, I divide it in half, and sprinkle a half a cup along one 5-foot row on one side, and then I put the other half cup on the other side of the 5-foot row, and then just start harvesting. And when you're doing with lettuces, I harvest. I like the leaf lettuces rather than the heading lettuces. We have such high humidity and such moisture here, and the heat, that the leaf lettuces I think are easier and much more successful to handle. And you always harvest the outer leaves and then let the center keep growing, and then those leaves, just lay down and lay flat. And you can keep harvesting for at least 2 weeks. I like to plant 2 rows or 3 rows. I plant one week, and then plant another one the second week, another one the third week. And when those are finished, you rip that row out and put another row of seeds down, and keep the harvest going. Cilantro is like that too. Cilantro is really fussy. And you want to look for the slow bolt types. So now cilantro is one of those that I tend to do it from seed rather than just buying the plants. Now, if I want to cook right away, though, I'll splurge and buy a plant of cilantro, because you just can't ever have enough cilantro in my book. But anyway, I hope that helped you kind of get some logic on that. Let's do this. I'm going to sign down again real quick just to see if we have a lot more questions. Hold on just a minute. And here we go. I'm going to stop the share for a minute and I'll come back. Ooh, we have a whole bunch. Okay, and I'm flying annuals for sun. Okay. All right, I think all of these are going to be included in the rest of the questions. So let's go back, and here we go. It looks like, okay, I have to wake up here to get my PowerPoint back up. Share the screen. Okay, everyone, you're hanging in there. Appreciate it. Okay, here we go again. Okay, and from this slide. Okay, let me see, where was I? Oh, there we are. Here's the next one. Okay, what are the best vegetables to start planting now? Well, you know what? We're still in that the day before the frost-free date. So I would still plant things like, again, lettuces, kales, any of the coal vegetables. Those are cabbages, Brussels sprouts, broccoli. That you can get those out right now. Spinach, spinach, peas. You could still get a pretty good harvest of peas in. So I would plant those right now. Put some sweet peas. Oh, you can't have enough sweet peas, out there. And then things like sugar snaps. Plant those right now. I had an afternoon off yesterday. Oh my gosh! And I went out and I got all of my vegetable garden cleared off, so I'll be ready to get it planted. So I'm going to actually plant some sugar snap peas myself over the weekend. Okay, next question. Any tricks on making tomato plants produce a greater harvest? Oh, yeah. Okay, you want to fertilize, and again, use that Dr. Earth fertilizer, and then I have another trick. Well, the question was about get a greater harvest. Make sure you fertilize. Make sure they're in a spot where they're going to get at least 6 hours of direct sunshine. If this is a leaf, you want direct sunshine on the leaves. You have to have the sun to get that. Okay, you can hand pollinate, and it's easy. Just get a little paintbrush, or I use like the little brushes that go with eyeshadow, and I have it cleaned, and then you just walk out to the tomatoes and the tomato flowers, and you just touch that brush on each of the flowers, and you move from flower to flower and just brush it around, and you're pollinating. My husband teases me when I do that on my lemon and lime. I have a lemon tree and a lime tree inside, and when I hand pollinate, he jokes with me and asks if I make a buzzing sound like a bee, and I think it works better if you do that. I have let me see, it was 14 Meyer lemons on my lemon tree. So I'm gonna have to harvest them and make my favorite lemon cake recipe that my mom always made me for my birthday. Okay, let's keep moving on. Okay, all right, Stacy, do you have advice for planting a raised bed summer vegetable garden? Exactly what I was talking about they say you should have 2 tomato plants for every person in the house that eats tomatoes. So I always try to have like a cherry type tomato. My absolute favorite is called Sun Gold, and it makes so many tomatoes that I don't mind sharing with the squirrels and the chipmunks that steal out of my garden. There's enough for all of us in the house. But I also like to have a larger tomato. And so, Champion is an excellent disease-resistant one that doesn't get too big. I love the dwarfs. I love the dwarf tomatoes. you get a good 2-inch diameter tomato from those, and they'll grow in as small a pot as a 10-inch diameter pot. So so look for the dwarf varieties, that are about, and they're all labeled really well. When you have to know the difference between determinate and indeterminate. A determinate type, it grows to a certain height, and most of the fruit gets ripe about the same time. Those are the ones that are used for canning, and the canning companies use a lot of the determinants. Indeterminates keep growing and growing and growing and growing higher and taller throughout the season. So those always need to be staked or have a tomato cage around them. So you get to that. Now, moving on to how do you prevent powdery mildew? I'm going to assume this is for a vegetable garden. So the best for vegetable gardens is a copper spray. It's called copper soap or a copper fungicide. It's copper octanoate. Excuse me. You spray that on and do that once a week, and that keeps powdery mildew from getting on things like squash, cucumbers, and the tomatoes. But it's more of a problem on squash and cucumbers. But that's an excellent one. Okay, and are there any good climbing squash varieties that you would recommend? The climbers, my squash, instead of putting them, making them climb up, that's more for like the winter type squashes where you can have them climb up. I like to just let mine spread. There's a really neat trellis that's designed for cucumbers, and you can put it on an angle and let those vines kind of crawl up that. And the squashes would do well on those. And then the nice thing about having the trellis at an angle, the fruit all hangs down below the trellis. It makes it easier to harvest. So great question, really good question. Okay. Oh my gosh, we're 5 minutes away from 2, and this question could take a whole hour. I need to know about planting and caring for hydrangeas. Planting's pretty basic and pretty easy. You just want to make sure that you plant the plant so that the root ball is completely below grade, because they can dry out real quickly, and they tend to be water hogs anyway. And then caring for it, depending on the variety. There's 5 major varieties of hydrangeas. There's the Annabelles that we've had forever and ever, and they have the big fluffy white flowers. They're not fussy. Those get cut down every spring to 12 to 18 inches from the ground. Then there's the grandiflora types. They were introduced, I think it's been about 8 years now. It may be 10. And that was the Endless Summer. The ones we had before, Nico Blue and All Summer Beauty, those were so disappointing because they only bloom on new wood that was formed from last year's wood. And on those marginally hardy ones, they always got killed back to the ground, and then new shoots would come from the roots, but there were never any flowers. Supposedly Endless Summer changed that, but it's still a macrophylla. If it hasn't been winter mulched, then oftentimes it'll get killed to the ground. So I tend to always encourage people to go into the paniculata types and those are the panicles that have the elongated flowers, and they've been hybridized so beautifully in the last 10 years that you get all different colors, you get all different sizes. There's a cute little one called Bobo that doesn't get more than 3 feet tall, and it's covered with these white fluffy flowers. You can hardly see that it's a plant. And then there's like vanilla strawberry, that they have the flower spikes that are about 8 to 10 inches long. They start out white, then they turn pink. And as the tips are growing, they stay white. Those are wonderful. So and then the 5th variety is the climbing hydrangea. Oh no, the 4th variety is the oak leaf hydrangea. It's a native, and they have like notched leaves, oak leaves with beautiful, beautiful flowers. It's a big shrub though. It's a great big shrub. And then the 5th variety is the climbing hydrangea. So that's, man, I can't believe I got hydrangeas done in 2 minutes. Woo. Okay, now you want to learn about caring for fruit trees. Okay, the most important thing with fruit trees You want to have them fertilized really well. You do want to prune them so that, you know, you prune them back. Let the top keep growing and growing and growing, but you prune the side branches back a third every the beginning of each growing season. That causes them to branch out more, so you get more fruiting. You get more fruiting on it. Fertilize really well, and then you also probably need to spray them. We have a wonderful orchard spray that is made from sulfur, which takes care of any of the fungal problems. And then it also has an organically derived pyrethrin, which is a natural earth-friendly natural insecticide. And so after they finish flowering and the fruit has started to set, then you can use the orchard spray. Because of the insecticide, you don't want to use it beforehand because you won't get the pollination you need, you know, to get the fruit. But then spray the fruit trees once a week for, you know, and just to prevent any insect, you know, damage on the fruit. Now, there's another question later that I probably won't get to, but it's about how to protect them from the squirrels. If you have problems with squirrels, and birds too can go after your fruit harvest, you really have to net the tree. So you get bird netting and throw it over the canopy, tie it down around the trunk, and that keeps most of the animals out, you know, out of it. Now, if you want to plant 2 cherry trees, a lot of people will plant like a sweet cherry and a sour cherry, and they pollinate each other. So Montmorency is one of the nice, I think that's the sour cherry. And so, but yeah, you go with 2. And we have, oh, you should come to our courtyard. The center courtyard, that's all set up for vegetables, and all the fruit is there. The little miniature, the small fruit trees are there. And then the miniature, the dwarf blueberries and the dwarf raspberry shrubs that will grow in pots. Oh, it's just great. It's really great. Okay, let's keep going here. Okay. Oh, the question is, there'll be a separate sign up each week? Yes, there will. And thank you. You know, thank you so much. And boy, I apologize about the mistake today. I hope everyone saw that late email about a week ago. Oh, this is Jenna. You're the person I sent an email to when I first saw this, thinking, oh my gosh, you have to water those plants. Now, when you have newly planted trees and shrubs, they're like emergency room type. That's emergency room. So they have to be watered at least every other day. You pretend like the container's still above ground. So you water, and I like to encourage people to look at the root ball, divide it into 4 quadrants. Take a watering wand, so you're not just, you know, getting all the foliage wet. You just want to hydrate that root ball. And you hold the watering wand right over 1/4 of the roots, and count to 5 as the water's running. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Move at the next quarter, count to 5. The 3rd quarter and the 4th quarter. Do that 2 to 3 times, and you will hydrate the root ball perfectly. And you do that every other day for the first 6 weeks. And like I said, it's like being in intensive care for 6 weeks, and because that's how long it takes for the roots to move out of the root ball into the surrounding soil. So you really go to that trouble. And when Jenna, you were talking about how evergreens were kind of looking like ash green, I'm hoping that you caught them in time. And then with the rain that we're getting today, that should really help. Now you don't need to hand water if we're getting heavy rains like we're getting. I think we're supposed to get about 2 inches of rain. So that's the only day you shouldn't water, okay? And because if it is, you know, but don't get tricked by a little light sprinkling, because it just gets the upper part of the plant wet. It never gets down to the roots. So always be aware of that. Get a rain gauge so you know exactly how much water is landing on your soil. Okay. Now this is Jessica Frank. I'm having trouble finding something to plant along the back of my house that gets lots of shade. I was sort of talking about the wet shade plants earlier. Those also will work great in a shady location. So if you want evergreens, there's the Japanese yews or the boxwood. That would be great in that for lots of shade. If you want things with a little more interest to them, and I was talking about the Fothergilla and then the clethras and those and Iteas. Those Those are the summer sweet shrub. And oh my gosh, I forgot what the common name for Itea is. Ah, you can tell my brain is too full. Okay. All right. Well, the next question is, I had knockout roses planted there, but they gradually died more and more every year. And that's because they just weren't getting enough sunlight. They like to have full sunlight. So it's a little sun and lots of water. So the ones I was talking about early, the very first question, where it was, you know, shady and alternating soggy soils, those are the same ones would work in your situation, Jessica. Thanks for your question. And thanks for saying thank you. Okay, the next one, Alicia Wechter. You know, our lawn is all dug up and brown. I may have to get a photo from you, you know, later. You can always send a photo to me at Jennifer B, JenniferB, for my last name Brennan, at shalleynursery.com. A lot of the digging is from animals that got a good meal last year, and right now the grubs are working their way back up to the surface of the soil. So if squirrels and raccoons got a good meal from out of your lawn, like last summer or even 2 summers ago, they'll come back looking, and they can hear those grubs coming to the surface. So you want to, you want to check for that. And if you see that it's those animals, then I would highly recommend that you put a grub control on. You want to use Grub-X, and then also use a repellent. And the repellents that are really good are the Plant Skeed, the Repels-All. It's their best-selling item. And then also, oh my gosh, it's Plant Skeed, Repels-All, and Liquid Fence. Liquid Fence for rabbits is wonderful. And you can spray that, and that will keep the animals, that'll repel the animals. Okay, let's do another one. Oh, when can I plant peas in my garden? This is almost, I think, one of the last questions. You can plant them today. Peas are great, but technically you could have planted them all the way back April 7th and still had a good crop. But go ahead and get another crop in right now. Okay, and then next one, Cynthia Tellone, the gardenias. Okay, gardenias. All right, they can be kind of fussy. All right, they need to be inside over the winter. They can move outside for the summer. They don't mind our warm, humid conditions, but you need to get them back in when the night temperatures get down into the 50s. Move them back inside, and then they like their roots to get dry in between waterings. A lot of people run them too wet. They like to get dry in between waterings, and they like to stay warm. It's one of those plants that is totally offended if it gets too cold. So keep them warm, and then let them dry out. And then they're really prone to spider mites. So always keep an eye out for that. And you want to spray them with like a mite control. My favorite is the 3-in-1 from Bio Advanced, and it takes care of fungal problems, mites, and any insects. And you can spray it, and it stays on the leaves for 30 days, with just one spray. And then be sure and fertilize them. Give them good fertilizer. My favorite is Dynagrow, and you just take 1 capful. Oh, I have that right here. Oh no, I don't. I thought I had it up here in my cabinet. But 1 capful in a gallon of water, and then use that, to water, when you need to water them. Okay, let's see. And oh, this was Carly. Okay, what do I do with the climbing cabot rose that's growing away from the arbor? Okay, if you have a vine that's growing away from your arbor, you are the master. If you can't safely tie it back up on the arbor, just prune it off. And because that means if one's growing away, you've got all the other ones up on the arbor. Okay, is everybody still there? And I am so sorry. This is just so goofy. Okay. Huh. I think I lost you all. I apologize. Okay, let's see what the chat, I still have the audio stopped. I'm so sorry. Oh, you have a raised hand. Oh, goodness. Am I still on? Okay. Wow, everybody. I think I'm still going, but I don't know. And I apologize. I am usually so much better than this. Okay. Okay. Well, everyone, I've gone over the limit, so I think I'm just going to say thank you, and I'll see you next week. All right. Thanks, everybody. Mm. Oh, I'm still here? Everyone, I'm saying thank you. So thank you so much. I'll get this right. We'll get this right. So thank you all for coming, and I apologize. You can always email me at jenniferb@shalleynursery.com. So thank you all, and stay safe, and keep adjusting to these silly masks. So all right. I miss you all. I miss seeing everybody in the Learning Center. Okay. Bye now.